if I'm fearful of that I'm not up to speed with it, what would you say to a realtor that's feeling a little overwhelmed with AI, mate?
I would say figure out a task specifically to your business that you want to execute. That usually takes an outsource, usually takes a designer, usually takes a copywriter, usually takes someone else, or it takes some of your effort and your time to try and be that expert in that side. But it's not really your forte. If it's something like copywriting, property descriptions, I do it, but I'm not the best at it. I know I'm not the best at it. And, I sit in my office and I talk to everybody about what they put in property descriptions, or we have little workshops. And big businesses out there, they know literally every word that you shouldn't say in any marketing communications, which is we don't have that in the real estate industry. We just don't. Like the previous business I worked at with was a B2B SaaS, and literally we knew one word over the other word, which was solutions versus technology. Solutions ended up closing at a way higher rate than the word technology, which
Wow.
makes no sense. And the other word too was software. So
Yeah.
solutions, technology, and software. Solutions performed 10 times better than either one of those words. Just think about a grammar mistake inside of your property description. Think about a spelling error. Think about little things like that. If you're not great at doing those things, where AI can come in and make sure that it's 90% of the way there, and you just have to tweak it a little bit,
Yeah.
you could have tremendous success from that standpoint. Again, it could be leveling the playing field that big businesses have over us.
Welcome to Rethink Real Estate. My name is Ben Brady, and this is a real estate podcast aimed to deliver sales strategies, marketing tips, and business insights from industry experts and myself to build a listing-focused business for the future. Let's get into it. Okay, team, we are back with the marketing messiah. I think that's going to stick for me, mate. It's going to stick for me. However, I think that today, marketing aside, like marketing is always top of mind, but sort of marketing and tech go hand in hand at the moment is what I feel, Chris. And that's why today I think we need to talk a little bit about AI, and we need to really, really sort of dive deeply into the real estate sector. I have to admit, and getting straight into it, and I want your thoughts on this. Right now, AI feels like crypto was at the beginning of the pandemic. You know how it had that huge uptick, everybody was in crypto. Obviously we all know where crypto stands right now, but AI feels like there's so much hype around it, and it makes me feel nervous looking at social media, looking at any of the news that I'm missing out on something. Like I know that we've created Harcourts Auctions Instant Assistant with ChatGPT and OpenAI, an easy barrier to entry for realtors that they can check out and they can use. But what does all of this mean, man?
Yeah, I think you got to take it back for technology as a whole. Like everything feels a little disruptive when they first come on the market. Like the internet itself felt disruptive, right?
Yeah.
To newspapers and to everything back in the day, and television, radio, everything like that. So where we're getting at right now when it comes to AI, you're 100% right that it does feel kind of like this crypto boom, and it does feel like the next evolution of Bitcoin and Ethereum and everything like that that's out there. The difference I would say for AI, and why I think we're going to have a bigger uptick in usage and it's going to stick around for a long, long time, is because of it's so easy to use right now. And it's actually empowering our businesses. It's actually empowering small businesses to compete with bigger businesses that are out there that have been using similar things from an AI perspective for a long time. You think about it, Amazon's been using AI for a long time, and we'll get into what AI they've been kind of using and how you can utilize it. But now it's giving this open access to anybody out there, which I think is tremendous. It's not this hard barrier to entry and hard barrier to learn like crypto was. But myself, I'm pretty technically inclined, I would say, hopefully. And so
I just want to put it out there for the record. I hope so.
Yeah, I hope so too. I can build websites. I can code. I can do all those things, which is super fun. I've been coding since I was 10, which is great. And but crypto was a hard barrier to entry for me. Like
it's for somebody that's not as technically inclined as you, mate. Like, don't get me wrong, I forced myself to learn it based on what's out there. Like, we have even looked at ways. We've obviously pumped the brakes on it at the moment on our auction platform, connecting a crypto wallet for people to, like, that's how far we got, with MetaMask and things along those lines, to look at how do we plug a wallet in for people to be able to possibly exchange or pay for real estate that way. Was one of the things that we even got to. Pumping the brakes now, considering what's happened with FTX and the crypto market and all the faith that's been lost out of that. It's the next thing. AI feels like it's easier to understand. However,
Yeah, and I think it's very task oriented.
Mm,
So you don't have to think of this big picture for AI. You can, but it's not going. You don't need to jump into it with a big picture of how it's going to actually absolutely revolutionize your business. You just have to be like, hey, I really need a logo, or hey, I really need a website coded, or I need a voiceover, or I need little things like task specific things, and it can do that, and it can do that really really well. Granted, there's always the human element that can make it even better, but I think that's the big thing with crypto. Crypto, you kind of had to be a revolutionary thought process minded person to be like, okay, now people are going to start, buying real estate with this, or people are going to start making their biggest transaction ever on crypto. And then we because it was so behind, smoke and mirrors and hidden and trying to understand it took a lot of hours of research and everything like that. You had a lot of people getting scammed on the crypto side of it. From
mm.
an AI perspective, it's really, again, task oriented, so the scamming aspect of it is very minimal. Like,
Can we talk on that just for a minute?
yep.
Because, I got to the point with using this and diving as deeply as what I have into it, because we have Harcourts Auctions Instant Assistant that is a ChatGPT OpenAI fueled. It's free real estate resource that if you're listening to the podcast now, guys, go and have a look at it. We'll link it in I think it's instantassistant.com, something along those
Instant
lines.
RE assistant, so instant.
instantre.com, whatever it is. But like, I've played around with it. And the benefit that we've created with ours is that Callista has actually taught it, and so have you, taught it a little bit about real estate. The thing I wanted to ask you though, Chris, is that I've played around with, I've been vague with my questions, as I think a lot of people are. They say that the new people that are going to be valued in the AI economy are the ones that actually can be progressive with figuring out what to ask the AI that's been built to get the best out of it. But I asked some vague questions about, like, I asked it to write a profile of me. Apparently I'm in the Rotary Club. Apparently I've got like a degree in this. Apparently I'm an expert in this field. It actually lies. Like, it legitimately just makes things up.
Yep.
Obviously, with refinement and things along those lines, it can get better. But like, it kind of feels a little, I don't know. I don't want to say scammy in some ways, but it's got this demeanor about it that if you are not working with it, or literally, it's not doing the job for you. You've got to actually take it to the next step.
No, and the prompts are where it sets it, when allows it to shine. So the prompts allow it to shine from that standpoint. So the more information and more data you give it, the better results are going to come out of it. So
Mm,
when it comes to even, the images you're generating, going all the way down to like what camera it's shot with and what lens and focal length and everything like that, that changes a lot of the returns that you get on it. So I
okay.
would say the same thing from a text generator. The more you put into it, the better results are going to come out of it. And I would always say questions are not the right way to go about it. A lot of people will say, how is the market going to be in 2023 or something like that inside of, the artificial intelligence chat GPT or anything like that. And it's not going to return stuff like that. But if you say, create an in-depth forecasting model of what the real estate market looks like in 2023, it's actually going to go to work at that point. So
Uh-huh.
there's a big difference on how you ask questions. And I think that's going to be the future of this, is basically having a set of prompts that, for the real estate industry that returns great results for us. I think will be one of the biggest beneficial uses of this thing. And that's what we've done from the Harcourts Instant reassistant.com, is we've actually basically kind of preloaded those prompts in the back end. And then the information that you put into the generator, we slide that into the right spot inside of those prompts. So that's how
Right.
it gives us better results, and we're
Yeah.
able to get more out of it for the people who utilize that free tool.
So this might be a question that we can't answer fully, but what ones are there out there? Like, because I know there's ChatGPT, which OpenAI owns, which then they've just done a deal for $10 billion with Microsoft that it's going to fuel Bing. They're going after Google. Google's one is called Barry or Barney or something like
Yeah.
that. It didn't go well for them. In the trial, I think it didn't work really well for them. But the funny part about this that I heard was that Facebook had one called Galactus or Galactica, something like that. They had it in November. They had to shut it down immediately because it actually
Yeah.
was provoking hate speech.
Yeah, I heard that part, and I also heard it started to come up, not become sentient, but it was like on the verge of, like, they were kind of curious if it was going to become sentient, which means that it
What does
has
that
it.
mean? Yeah,
That
yeah.
means that it's human like, that it has its own thoughts,
Right.
which is very scary. That is the part where once we get to that level, that's that's the next level of this whole iteration, is whenever computers can have their own thoughts and their own emotions and their own ideas. Like, that's going to be the scary part when it comes to all this. That's the robots take over. That's, iRobot, Will Smith movie. That's that whole situation. So
Okay, all right, got it. Okay, note to self. Okay, I've got it. Is start running the moment that it becomes, how do you say it? Sentient.
yeah.
Okay, sentient. So, but let's talk more about AI in the specific real estate space. I guess that, what is the hype around it at the moment? What are you hearing? What are the articles that are out there? What's happening from that perspective?
So the hype is massive, and we all know this through every single industry, but specifically for real estate industry, the hype is growing more and more every day. So Columbia University, I think yesterday it was announced that they are doing a complete division inside of their university for artificial intelligence in the real estate and fintech space, which is massive, that they're kind of narrowing directly into real estate and fintech for artificial intelligence.
Got to be honest, that scares the shit out of me of being somebody in real estate. Like, what are they trying to achieve in that? Are they seeing how it can assist the real estate industry? Or obviously, when anything new comes out, there's fear of replacement. Like, I've got to be honest, if I'm a content writer and my job is to be a content writer, one, I'm either just leveraging the hell out of doing more work than I could ever possibly do and expanding my capacity with AI, or I'm getting another job.
Yeah, 100%. And there was an article recently, I think it was a couple days ago, where a copywriter went through and reviewed 5,000 property descriptions created for real estate professionals, like that they were loading into ChatGPT and stuff like that. And she found a lot of errors and found all these massive errors that were going through it. But at the same time, it was free for all those agents, and those agents are utilizing it. And so that's work that she's kind of losing out of. And unless she's using her connections and she's using her reputation and then combining that with artificial intelligence too.
So in that Columbia article, or what Columbia is doing, is there something in there that, are they using AI from a looking for an algorithm in order to then sort of find real estate deals, or what sort of angles were they going after with it?
So they're doing a handful of different things. So they classified the reason of going into four parts of real estate for four different things. And I have the notes right here, so I'm looking down a little bit, but they wanted to go into real estate specifically, not just fintech, but real estate specifically, because in their mind, real estate has little in-house technical expertise. 100% true. How many technology people are in real estate? Very minimal. And how many realtors have, technology backgrounds? Very minimal as well. They have, real estate industry has a heavy reliance on off-the-shelf technology, kind of unoriginal technology, all of the CRMs out there, everything like that, that's kind of out of the box for everybody. So there was that piece of it. Real estate industry has been subjective to years of overblown hype when it comes to technology, crypto, everything like that we've kind of gone through.
Well, again, I don't want to segregate to an individual company, but really, Compass, they called themselves a technology company before they called themselves a real estate company, just to get the valuation of what that provokes from that multiplier.
This goes on, that last point that they said is that people are disappointed in the returns in $100 billion invested in prop tech, which Compass. So and others, like let's not harp just on Compass, but that is the reason why they wanted to jump into real estate. And they were looking at it from everything from property analysis to financial forecasting to property forecasting, housing market forecasting. They're looking at it on coding and how to create better tools for real estate agents. So there's a lot of different aspects in this, and Columbia University, as most people know, is very intertwined with hedge funds and Wall Street and everything like that. A lot of people who come out of Columbia are very, very smart people, smarter than you and I most likely, and they're going to figure out a way to make money out of returning some kind of innovation from this new initiative from Columbia University. And that's what's going to be very, very exciting to see what comes out of there.
It will be exciting, because I think that it's one of those things that, Harcourts Auctions, there's certainly our auction process. There's one thing that I fall asleep at night sometimes, or maybe not fall asleep, it wakes me up at night, is thinking that, were we too early? Are we the first into this space of non-distressed auctions? There are a handful of companies that have tried and failed previously. We are the largest now within North America from a volume perspective in a non-distressed market, but are we too early to the market? I'll give you an example of this, Chris, where this possibly could then segue through to the AI portion, is that Keller Williams, they spent millions and millions and millions of dollars on their technology, and it was supposed to be AI infused. Now, this was a good 12, 18 months ago, maybe even longer. I think it might have even been pre-pandemic. They brought out something like a I think it was called the Kelly bot or something along those lines. It was AI infused, and it just hasn't hit. It didn't work. They said it was going to be revolutionary to the real estate industry. It never was. But then you look at the other avenues. You look at Compass. You look at all of these other different companies that have spent hundreds of millions of dollars on their technology, even all the way down to EXP. I saw something the other day that EXP has only a 10% of their 75,000 agents that actually go onto the platform, and then only a 1% adoption rate. Technology, because it's promised or it's been so overhyped within all of these businesses, I just don't think anyone's got technology right over the number of years that they've been trying to, thinking that it's going to give them some type of edge in the game. The reality, though, is where I love what AI is doing. It is a tool to help provoke performance versus something that is going to make it like replace you or going to guarantee you get more deals or things along those. It's just a capacity increaser. Is that the way you see it?
Yeah, 100%. And I would say there's a big difference between the AIs that you're talking about from Keller Williams and Compass to this new iteration of AI that's coming out with ChatGPT and everything that's come forward recently. There's difference between logic-based AI, where and I always explain this in layman's terms. So the layman's terms of logic-based AI is something happens and then is just like so if this happens then that happens situation.
Okay.
So and
kind
the
of
way
like are they like the chat bots that you already see, like the ones that currently
correct.
exist, like the one on our auction website?
The one on our auction website, the ones that are out there. I also equate it to Mario Kart. Everybody's played Mario Kart at least one time. And if you get ahead, if you're in first place and you get a significant amount of ahead of the rest of the computer generated people behind you, then they all gang up on you and basically knock you down so that the game is fun the entire way and you're not sitting in first place ahead of time. So that is the real thing that happens in Mario Kart. That is logic-based AI, right? It's computer generated result based on an action that's already happening outside of that. That's what, Compass, Keller Williams, and everything like that. They claimed, they were doing other things as well, and they probably were. They had smart mathematicians and everything like that on the thing. But this evolution of AI that's kind of pushed out these days is very much reactionary based on what you're inputting, and it's very different. They don't know what you're going to input. There's not just 6 choices on it. Are you looking to buy a home? Are you looking to sell a home? Okay, then deliver this response. It's not workflow based. This is kind of like open ended, and then whenever a prompt comes in, then it reacts to that. So
Okay.
it's a completely different artificial intelligence. But I would agree with you when you said that these are tools now, which I think is so much different. It's so much different. And I think if you look at it, any technology that takes off, like truly takes off, is a tool for you. Think of FaceTime. FaceTime allows you to better connect with people across the world, or better connect with people, family members that you haven't seen in a long time. And it's better experience talking to them one-on-one than a phone call. And same thing before that, a phone call was better than mail or whatever was before that. You know what I mean? Like
it's the next progression of the internet outside of search. There was search that made things more available. You still had to obviously then go through and find the right answers and things along those lines, and still to a degree with AI. But now, I think that one of the smart things that I've heard people say is that why search when you can get an answer? Like it's why do it yourself when somebody can give you a great start? Like I've often said to the team is that all I need is an idea, and then I can run with that idea from there. I just need help starting. And I think that if we see AI as that for a period of time until it's refined better, I think it could be an amazing tool. But speaking of tools, mate, you said before that there's some tools. What is out there for us at the moment that we can use? We've obviously got Harcourts Instant Assistant, and that's really been trained around the real estate space that you can do descriptions and so on and so forth. What can we do with Harcourts Instant Assistant, and then what are some of the other things that are out there?
So I think there's big 3 that I would utilize right off the bat if I was a real estate agent today.
Yep.
And ChatGPT is one of them. So that's built by a company called OpenAI. You can look it up, openai.com, I believe is what it is. And you can go into ChatGPT and you can find out all of the information they're building. They're building a lot more than just this chatbot. So they have Dolly, they have a lot of different things that are in there. But ChatGPT is where I would start. And that's going to help you for like property descriptions, social posts, little things that basically make your business and your copywriting easier. So that's that. That is also what fuels instantreassistant.com. So we basically take that, ingest it into our system and make it easier and more interactive. So their user interface and everything like that is not the simplest, and it's not the most easy to kind of walk through.
And you've got to create an account and
Exactly.
all, like, because I remember Callista sent me the link early on, and I couldn't even figure out how to use it.
Yep. So there's that one. The other one that I would type in is MidJourney. So midjourney.com. That is an image generator.
Oh.
And basically what that does is you can create, virtual staging, you can create images, you can create avatars, you can create chatbot avatars, infographics. So you could do a lot of cool different things when it comes to images. So that's a text to image generator from AI.
So how does that work? Like, do you put a photo in there and then say, hey, put furniture in these places? Like, how's it work?
Yeah. So we could do a couple different ways. So yeah, you can upload a photo, a reference photo in there. And then you could say, I want a couch in this style, of black, all these different things in this corner of the picture. It'll then load that in there for you, which is tremendous. Now, again, it's not always perfect, but if you're just trying to do a quick rendering, it provides great results. You could also do a complete 3D render of vacant land. Like you could say, build a craftsman home on this vacant land, and have a 3D render of it.
That's cool.
Yeah,
that's cool. It's funny how I never thought virtual staging was a good idea until we started doing auctions in Manhattan in New York. Yep. Everyone does it. Now, don't get me wrong. I think that you've got to be realistic with it, because what I like about what everybody does in Manhattan in New York is that they will put a photo up with the virtual staging. And you're like looking at it, you're like, oh wow, that looks really nice. You can't tell really that it's virtual staging a lot of the time, but then they'll put the vacant photo in as well to show you the difference between the two, so that it's not overselling. So you've got to be cautious of the fact of false pretense to your photos.
Yeah, 100%. And that's what we're doing, is we're basically letting them envision what it would be like to live in those properties. So even remodels, and the potential that a kitchen has and stuff like that. That I've oftentimes seen, the original photo, and then someone puts on there, an idea of what it would look like if it was remodeled or rehabbed in the sense. But then they put a disclaimer on it. This is not the real home, and so you want to do stuff like that. So that's midjourney.com. What that does is that'll jump you into a program. You basically go on there and you click on join Discord is the button that says there, and you'll need to have Discord to be able to utilize this. I believe the first 25 or so is free, and then you can sign up for a paid account or an unlimited account. Now, the photos that are coming out of there are tremendous, and I would say they are so hyper realistic. They are like, you're seeing avatars that look like real people. They're talking. You could put them in videos. You could do all these different things. And that kind of leads me to this next part, is you could have an avatar that's built by MidJourney actually talking. Now the lips aren't moving perfect and everything like that, but if it's computer generated and it's an avatar, it's fine if that's situations out there. And then you could pair it with a company called ElevenLabs, which is, I think, just ElevenLabs.com. You can look it up. And that is an AI voice generator. And you can actually type in anything you want, and the voice generator will actually respond it back out of there. I did something right before this of, Ben Brady is an auctioneer, in North America, and it spits it out, and you get to choose all these different voices and everything like that. You could choose famous voices. You could do all these.
That's interesting. That's interesting. Okay, so think on this. Okay, not that I'm looking to replace myself entirely. However, you think about our new auction bidding platform that's going to be released here in the next month or so. Like, it's very visual basis than a live auction itself. We do an avatar, and we have the voice that comes in when the bids come in. You could legitimately have an auctioneer with the AI voice.
You can even have ChatGPT spit out the script for that avatar to then say through ElevenLabs, which is just, we're getting into that whole Inception minded movie situation when it comes to that part. But it's very good, and it sounds legit. And if you're just looking for virtual tour voiceovers, and you don't want to pay someone to do a voiceover, and you don't like how your voice sounds on recording like me, then why not do it? Like, it's a very cool, very different way. And that's where, again, we're getting at, where these are tools to empower your business and make it easy. And again, if I was a voiceover person, I'd be a little scared of my job in the future. Like, it's going to be drastically different.
Also, every single one, again, I'm happy to put it out there now, every single one of our videos that we have done for our live auctions in the beginning, so that I don't have to read the description, we have the voiceover done. I'm literally thinking about this right now. That cost is actually quite significant, believe it or not. Heidi's got to put the script, send them the script. They pronounce the words wrong most of the time if it's a different street, because in Southern California, all of the Spanish street names and whatever, Hawaii is even worse, and all that stuff. Is that thinking about this is that they're going to be out of the job several thousands of dollars a year if this works well.
Yeah. Yeah. And I 100% believe it does work well. So I was testing it. To be able to say Harcourts correctly. I mean, that's a test in its own right.
That is, yeah. I've had people before like, "Hi, I'm from Harcourts Auctions. Do you auction tennis courts?" No.
Courts. Yep, we build basketball courts, tennis courts.
Yeah, just the houses that have them. That's all.
Yeah, exactly.
So I guess, mate. So you've got Harcourts Instant Assistant. It can be a Harcourts Auctions Instant Assistant or instantre.com. That's an avenue.
Instantreassistant.com.
Sorry,
yep. Instant. Get you to get that right.
instantreassistant.com. Got it. Yep. So that's for more of the content-driven stuff that can do social posts. It can do property descriptions. It can write profiles. It can, if you uploaded a real estate article in there that was too long, you could ask it to summarize that. So then you can build content and send content out to your database and things along those lines. Then you've got the image side of things, which was what again?
MidJourney. There's a few of them out there, but MidJourney is the one I would trust and the one I've had great success using. So,
and then the other one, the voice generator, is what again?
ElevenLabs.
ElevenLabs.
Yep. So ElevenLabs is doing the voice generation side of things.
Sorry to interrupt your podcast, but I wanted to make sure that you're aware of the Harcourts Auction business plan that is available to you as a free value add to your business. We released it earlier this year and have had an overwhelming number of people download it, but also an overwhelming amount of feedback that when they put it into action, it's changed the way that they've thought about their business. Not only from a numbers perspective, but also as an inward lead flow to make sure that they're building a repeat and referral business for the future. The main goal of what we're trying to plan for is to remove you from cold prospecting into that repeat and referral natured business that everybody wants. Again, it is available to you on the 16th of January was the episode that you can go back and listen to on podcast or go back and watch through YouTube. But also, if you need to, go to harcourtsauctions.com, click the menu tab, go into the blogs and resources section, and you'll be able to find it under the Harcourts Auctions business plan. Also, you can send me an email, ben.brady@harcourtsauctions.com, and I'd be happy to send it through to you. So you could even have them, flick through photos on a social media perspective of the property that you've already got done. Type in a script into that ElevenLabs, and it could pop you out sort of a voiceover that then you could add to it and upload that to your social media, things like that.
100%. And I have a list here of a bunch of different things that I like to run through that I think would be beneficial for you, your real estate agents to use all of these things with it. So obviously we talked about copywriting, but copywriting is massive. The hard part about being a real estate agent is we also have to be a copywriter, we have to be a marketer, we have to be all these different things. So copywriting is one of probably the most difficult things for most people to do when it comes to property descriptions, flyer materials, script writing, everything like that. ChatGPT, I think, is beneficial for that. Use it for pretty much anything. So again, like you talked about, you can grab a real estate article. You could say, summarize this into a 30-second video script that I can post on Instagram. It'll then spit you out a video script that you can then speak to, or you can use ElevenLabs and stuff like that out there. So copywriting is a big one. I think that's pretty straightforward. Design and graphics. So design and graphics, you can use, MidJourney. You could use a bunch of different things out there from a design and graphic standpoint. I think one of the hardest things when it comes to design is working with a designer and letting them clearly articulate what you are trying to accomplish. Like that
I can hand on heart say that is so our Harcourts Auctions listing presentation that I did, it's 78 pages long, and I literally was sketching things on a piece of paper, right, and then sending photos to the graphic designer, and they'd send me back their iteration, then doing the same thing. I think that back and forth and the time that takes and the mental tenacity you need to have to get it right.
Yeah, and from both sides. So I've been on both sides of this. I've delivered prompts and tried to get graphic designers to understand what I'm trying to get across. And then on the other side, I've been the graphic designer trying to understand
what I've said.
Yeah, exactly. Trying to understand what Ben said, or even like Steve Caradoc Davies and everybody else in the Harcourts International. And so trying to illustrate basically what they're trying to get across in this exact listing presentation or anything out there. So I think that's the hardest part. And I think that's where you can basically type into these chatbots, get something that's roughly close. And even if you still take that and pass it over to a designer to refine it, I mean, I'm not saying replace them wholeheartedly, but you can then take this inspiration piece now where you have a clearer inspiration and you can then send it to them and say, this is what I'm looking for. Like something like this, but move this here and put this text in here and stuff like that. Because these image generators and stuff like that, they're not going to put actual real text in there for you. It's always like jumbled text because they don't understand, put text here or anything like that. They'll do like simple stuff like put an S as my logo and stuff like that, but that's about it. So design and graphics, I think, is big. You can use them for logo creation, website creation. They'll mock up landing pages for you.
This is MidJourney still? We'll do all this.
This is MidJourney. Yeah. So MidJourney, basically, you've set a prompt and say, I want a UX UI website design of a real estate website, modern, sleek, these colors, and it'll spit something out for you. And you get pretty close. Like I've seen some beautiful landing pages come out of this MidJourney that, again, you didn't need anything from that standpoint. And with AI, there's a coding aspect of AI as well. So AI works really well, and we'll get into this, but AI works really well when it is inside of parameters, when it doesn't have to come up with that human element of stuff. So like we talked about the prompts, but it also works really, really well when it comes to coding. Like it's tremendous right now at coding. And it works really well from a legal parameter. Now it's not perfect from a legal parameter because there's all the hoops and loopholes that, the human element can find. But it did pass the bar. Like AI has passed the bar already, which is tremendous.
So that just means that it answered all the questions relatively correctly.
Exactly what it needs to do. So from a legal perspective, when it has parameters like that, that's another one on here where it's, coding and legal. So coding, it does tremendously well. So you could have the image generator spit out a template, and then you could send it over to code in another AI generator and probably get pretty close. I've never done it, but I've seen people get pretty close with it. And then again, you could pass it off to the human element of an outsourced person and say, hey, fix this a little bit and make this work for me. And then you might get pretty close from that standpoint.
The imperfections of this just allow us to just take on, like I said before, just so much more capacity.
Yep.
Like if you think about the volume of communication that you can have with your database, or the volume of information that you can be putting out to them about the real estate marketplace, the volume of content that you can create by having summarizing articles to do quick videos on them. And even if you didn't want to, putting images behind them with the voiceovers, like it just allows us to do a lot more with this tool. Like I think that a lot of people are worried about being replaced in a lot of different industries, but I think that if we can use it from a perspective of people, just simply increasing capacity, that's like if I'm an intern or if I'm a paralegal.
If I had this when I was, a marketing intern and a marketing assistant, I mean, the sky's the limit. I would have been running my agency like 6 months earlier. I would have been going crazy. I probably would have never joined Harcourts, honestly. I would have been going wild if I had this, because just the ability to think of it as every newspaper has 1 million writers, and then think about how many editors they have. It's probably, I would assume, I've never been in that industry, but I would assume it's less, because they're the ones, not coming up with it, but they're the ones refining it. And so think about it the same way. You are now an editor, and the AI engine is your writer. The AI engine is the one getting you 90% of the way there. And your job at that point is just to proof and make sure that it's saying the right things, and that's
such a good analogy for the relationship that you need to have with this thing. Is so good.
Yeah. So the other things I have on here, obviously infographics, logo creation, stock photos is one of the biggest things. So, I mean, the idea that we have to go to, iStock and use the same stock photo that the realtor down the road uses, instead of just coming up with, a sketch of what also illustrates what we're trying to get across, someone handing over the keys or something like that to a property, and then you attach that to a blog post or anything like that. So little things like that. But then once we get past, the difficult things like coding and legal and stuff like that, I've seen already legal firms that are uploading stuff to be proofread inside of AI to make sure, all the signatures are in the right places, all the disclosures are in the thing. They're doing, everything from their LOIs and their lease agreements and stuff like that through there.
I struggle, Chris, more than anybody else, I really struggle with spelling and grammar and all of those different things. I am uploading every one of my emails that I don't need to send really quickly, obviously, to be proofread by Harcourts Auctions Instant Assistant, or instant reassistant.com. I get it?
Exactly. You got it. You got it. So there's that one. But then I think once we get into the future of this, I think we're going to see one of the coolest things. I think we're going to be able to do property market analysis, and which is tremendous, and financial forecasting. So the idea that we can then see as a buyer if this is going to be a good investment for you, for me, 10, 20, 30 years. You can already do little things like that where you could say, what are the odds of a natural disaster happening on this street address, which is
Right.
pretty interesting, right?
That
That
is
and that
interesting.
that is very much your investment right there. Like if you have a 60% chance of an earthquake in the next 30 years on this property, chances are you probably need, earthquake insurance, and you need to make sure you have all these things put in place because, look, my financial investment is pretty, screwed at that point if an
Can
earthquake happens.
can I a quick question on that though is that I've noticed that it, like, if I type in now, give me an up-to-date market analysis on Laguna Beach, it doesn't have the current data in there. It's just historically. Like if I said historically how much of price has gone up in Laguna Beach, or historically what's been the median price in Laguna Beach, it could give me that up to a certain point, but it's not good with the current information that is currently in the marketplace now, right?
Yeah, it's trying to vet out a lot of things, right? It's trying to vet out, what's accurate and everything like that from the current stuff. And that's where if you provide it data, you can get better information out of it. So if you give it, here's how many homes have sold, 2,626 homes have sold in 2022 in Laguna Beach, and the average sale price was this amount. And what does the market look like next year, the following years? Like if you give it a lot of information,
It'll
that's when
give
you're
you
going to get
right.
the better information out.
Got it.
So I think we're gonna have a tremendous time with financial forecasting when it comes to AI. The fact that a computer generated can go through, do the research, figure out the the pluses and the minuses in each market, and be able to tell us which neighborhoods, which farm areas, which communities are going to grow based on certain parameters. Now we're never going to be able to take into the human element of like Amazon moving into the area or Tesla moving over to Austin or something like that. Like
Well, but maybe it could. But maybe it could. Like it could look at like other ancillary services that will be moving into the area that fuel jobs and all of that type of stuff. Because you've just opened up another category in my mind that I never even thought about. Financial analysts that work at these hedge funds and everything along those lines. I was actually listening to a podcast this morning with one of them. He was in the 90s. He went through as an analyst, and he says the industry has changed to the point that we used to have floors and floors and floors of analysts in buildings. Now you're lucky to see half a floor of analysts because there's so much readily available information that is there, and in the search category, let alone what AI can do for it. So I didn't even think about that it also can replace the perspective of prediction in a marketplace and in an area.
100%. And I think that's one of the hardest things from a marketing and small business aspect is getting that data, getting
Mm.
data that then, puts you as the expert, as the industry expert in your specific marketplace. That is one of the hardest things to get. Like, and if we're relying on the same data that all the other agents are using, chances are they're already putting out all the data that's, put out from your MLS and everything like that. Like, you're not going to have anything unique. And
Mhm.
so, but if you can take that and you can spit that into, an AI generator, or you could just interpret it better, then you'll have a unique selling point or unique proposition of like what makes you stand out from the marketplace. But I think that's what, like, as a marketer, I always want the better data. I mean, we talked about the other day of like I think it was like 75% of homes that make it 21 days on the market right now in San Francisco Bay Area are making it to 60 days on the market. So that's a tremendous stat. Like,
that statistic right there is like that's revolutionary to us approaching agents and sellers in a marketplace to go, hey, you need to have a look at an alternative option, because if you get to here, you've got a 75% likelihood of getting to here. But that took you, how long did that take you to get to, Chris?
yeah, it didn't take me that long just because I didn't run it through an AI or anything like that, but I'm able to, I'm very data minded. And so
Mm.
it's a little bit different. I look at the numbers and I'm very statistical. I look at, sports. I stare at sports stats like pretty much all day. And so I want to know what's going to happen in the game before it even happens. I'm one of those people. And so I stare at these things, but most agents don't look at these stats like that. Like
No.
they're in the person to person networking relationship type of business, and so allowing an AI to basically go through these stats and come up with things, come up with statistics from this data set. And if that's the future of financial forecasting and data analysis, I mean, I think that's super beneficial because there is not enough people in data analysis to make it cost effective for small businesses out there.
Walk me through this. So let's say that I'm an agent. I've got a traditional listing on the marketplace, and obviously we have an opinion that I don't think you should do a price reduction. I think you should convert it through to auction. However, let's say that I'm a traditional realtor, and I go, here's the real estate data over the last X amount of time. Like if I got every property that was currently on the market or every property that's sold, take into consideration. So if I got every property that's sold and I uploaded that to ChatGPT or uploaded that to some format of an AI, and I asked them, take into consideration the price reductions. How much should we reduce our price by if we were to look at the average? Would it do that?
Yeah, so you can do Excel sheets basically, which would give you the variable from that standpoint, but also the standpoint of that where we could take this not even price reductions. You could take the
Yep.
entire market and you could say how many properties sold below asking price, like
So
in the
do you
entire thing.
upload do you upload that as an Excel spreadsheet into an AI?
So no, ChatGPT can sit inside of an Excel spreadsheet. So let me say that
Ah,
again, just for everybody. ChatGPT can sit inside of an Excel spreadsheet, and
right.
so you can also use ChatGPT to spit out the correct formats in Excel to give you those pieces of data. With a you have your entire sheets, you have all your tables, you have all the data in one spot. You can then say, what is the correct piece of code to put in here. I'm pretty good at Excel. I'm not the best, but you can use ChatGPT to enable you to be the best in the world at Excel. Because
Yeah,
again,
right.
it works good when you have parameters around it
Got it.
from that standpoint.
Okay, so I'm sitting here as a realtor, and I'm overwhelmed to almost not to the same extent as what I would be in the crypto side of it. Like crypto, I still have to be honest, is I still don't understand it 100%. I think I'm 80% of the way there with how it works and the principles of it, but I'm still not 100% there. And I've done an extensive amount of work to try and figure that out because I think that as any leader of an organization, you've got to be up to speed with what's going on. But if I'm sitting here as a realtor and I'm a little overwhelmed with AI,
Yep.
like what do you say to us? Like, if I'm fearful of that, I'm not up to speed with it. What would you say to a realtor that's feeling a little overwhelmed with AI, mate?
I would say figure out a task specifically to your business that you want to execute. That usually takes an outsource, usually takes a designer, usually takes a copywriter, usually takes someone else, or it takes some of your effort and your time to try and be that expert in that side. But it's not really your forte. So
Mm,
if it's something like copywriting, property descriptions, I do it, but I'm not the best at it. I know I'm not the best at it. And I sit in my office and I talk to everybody about what they put in property descriptions, or we have little workshops and stuff like that inside of our office to figure out, what's selling better when I say this and that. Big businesses out there, they know literally every word that you shouldn't say in any marketing communications, which
mm.
is we don't have that in the real estate industry. We just don't. Like the previous business I worked at with was a B2B SaaS, and literally we knew one word over the other word, which was solutions versus technology. Solutions ended up closing at a way higher rate than the word technology, which
Wow.
makes no sense. Or and the other word too was software. So it
Yeah.
was solutions, technology, and software. Solutions performed 10 times better than either one of those words. And we didn't know that. And so little things like that, we're not going to be able to throw all that information into AI and do all the split testing and everything like that. But just think about a grammar mistake inside of your property description. Think about a
Mm.
spelling error. Think about little things like that. If you're not great at doing those things, where AI can come in and make sure that it's 90% of the way there, and you just have to tweak it a little bit.
Yeah.
You could have tremendous success from that standpoint. Again, it could be leveling the playing field that big businesses have over us.
Well, I think the other thing that I find interesting with it as well is tonality. You can ask it to write in certain tone, like in an aggressive tone, in a funny tone, in all these different tones. Is that like that's something you can play with? I'm not necessarily like somebody that's quick witted from an English perspective. To be able to have that level of creativity to sort of give me the foundations to do something like that, I could never have done before.
You can ask it to write jokes, like which is hilarious. Like the thought I saw one literally today. Like, I was scrolling through Twitter and I saw one today where it literally was like, why does the real estate agent cross the road, and said to list the home on the other side? Like, and
That's
I was like, that is a stupid joke, and it's
no,
it's a dad joke.
that's some of
Yeah,
Chris material right there,
it
ladies and
is,
gentlemen.
but isn't that hilarious that like you can have this chat GPT,
I
this
was putting it in there for a friend.
yeah, right. Yeah, I put it in there. No, I'm just kidding. But no, it's it's one of those things, like, you can have jokes and you can have witty comments and you can have like little things, like you can ask it. I mean, if you get a comment on your Facebook post, you can copy and paste that comment and say, type a response to this comment.
Oh, that's true. Yeah,
Like, you
yeah,
could
yeah,
do all
yeah.
these little things and be this like witty person, even if you're not, like, or have a more endearing or empathetic tone to your email responses,
Yeah, yeah.
for some people
So
who
you could
aren't.
ask them rewrite this in an empathetic way, or yeah,
Exactly.
okay.
Yeah, for an empathetic way and stuff like that. Like, I always say I'm very direct in my emails, and
Mm.
I've gotten people telling me that a million times. And I'm half the time I'm typing on my phone while my 4-year-old's like kicking me in the face or something like that. So like I'm just I'm just trying to respond. I'm just trying to get you your response as fast as possible. But if I just pop that into an AI generator real quick and I say, write this in an empathetic tone to my clients, like it could come off completely different and save my business at that
Yeah.
point. So
So an easy barrier to entry to this is instantreassistant.com. Is a platform that we've sort of designed, and you guys, being Calista and yourself, have taught it real estate and where to actually give it, where to slot the information in order to get the best real estate orientated response. Okay. It's essentially being given a real estate tone, would you say, Chris?
yeah, 100%. And I think there's one other thing I want to harp on first, because I know we're kind of coming to the end of the time. Was the last thing I think you could utilize this for now and in the future is Amazon has had an AI that's basically been their recommendation engine, is what it's been called for a long, long time.
Oh, okay.
It basically recommends other products to you based on products that you've viewed, products that you've checked out on, products that you've purchased in your history. So think about every time you've been on Amazon and you go to the front page, you're getting all these recommended products that are directly on there. You're seeing everything on the sidebar. They're showing you products to encourage more purchases, right?
Right.
I think the future of real estate when it comes to AI is having an AI recommendation engine for real estate.
Right.
100%, where you can input every single showing that you've taken a buyer on, their property parameters that they're looking for, what school districts, everything like that. And then it will consistently recommend properties that fit criteria, even if they're outside of the boundaries of, a specific area, but they might be a better home and they might fit more of what their criteria is. Like, basically think of it as like a scale that they'll have all these points of, like, the school is worth 5 points to me, and the kitchen is worth 10. If it's a big expansive kitchen and chef's kitchen and everything like that, that's worth 10 to me. A swimming pool is worth -5, like, and all these different things that you're able to put in there. And then it will actually recommend properties based on what buyers actually want. And I think
Yeah.
that's going to be the next level of real estate AI, which will be a recommendation engine that I hopefully hope that literally every real estate agent could tap into to better service buyers and just find
Yeah.
them the better homes. And then again, from a
Volume
seller's
volume
perspective,
again.
yeah, from a seller's perspective, that helps your listing get in front of the right people who then will pay top dollar for that property because they love that property the most. And
Yeah.
that's where I think that balance is from a buyer and seller perspective.
Right. So as far as just sort of using AI in a small way, they could go to instantreassistant.com.
100%.
They could put their email in and ask him to rewrite it in a different way or in a different tone, or to proofread it or something along those, just little things to just play with it to see what it can do. But I think that, Chris, is your bit of advice, like I was putting in simple questions and I was like, this isn't really worth, I don't think it's great. But it was the types of questions that I was typing, I wasn't giving it a whole lot. Like, write me a property description for 3305 Smith's Way, whatever it is. It doesn't know that property. It's going to take its own liberties in pulling stuff locally, but it doesn't know how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, how many whatever it may be. You've got to actually give it an example.
Yeah, I typed in my property specifically, and it actually did know that there was a fireplace. It did know like a lot of weird things, which I was like, interesting. Okay, that must be out there on the internet somewhere, which is cool. But it did get some things wrong. So that's where, again, the more information that you type in, the better results you're going to get for that. So I would say write a property description for 1234 State Street. It's a craftsman home built in 1920, 4 bedrooms, 3 baths on 1.5 acres in a quiet community close to Gig Harbor School District and all these things. And so you're able to put in all those. It's 1.5 miles to a shopping mall. It is 1 mile to this. Put it in basically how you would write a property description, and then let it do its work. And so it'll come in and rework the entire thing.
The thing where I've seen it work the best for people, like I've sat there and watched Callista work with it for hours, is that you get one version of it generated, right? Then you add a few little things or whatever it may be. Then you add it back in and go rewrite this, okay? Yeah. And then you add it back in after that, like you adding a little bit more context as you think about it and as you play with it, and it will go through that creative element for you.
And you could do that with all these AIs. That's the beauty of it, is it is a conversational AI. So you can basically just type back into it and say, no, I want it in a, a more lighthearted tone, or no, I want it in, I forgot, you need to mention, the expansive backyard or the, refined landscaping or anything like that. Like, and it will go in and it will change the previous answer. You can also regenerate a bunch of responses. So you can just sit there clicking regenerate, and you can get a bunch of different answers. So every time you go on instantreassistant.com and you actually just hit the submit button again with the same criteria that you put in the first time, it'll send you another email with a different response that's completely different than the first one. I mean, it might have some similarities, but it's different. And so you can figure out which one you like better. And so the same thing with MidJourney, it gives you 4 options when it comes to those images that come out there. And then you pick the one you want and you upscale it, and you can kind of refine it at that point.
Wow.
And then get an image you'll actually use, which is great.
So it's funny, and in closing, is that we're doing some promotion around instantreassistant.com and the Harcourts Auctions Instant Assistant. And, Chris is sort of doing some images the other day, and he sends one, he circulates one around to the group, and he goes, I think this one's good. It's got a robot. The robot's got a face that doesn't look like it's going to take over the world. After this conversation, I actually fully understand that now.
This is one of the biggest fears. Look it up. Elon Musk believes the same thing. Joe Rogan. There's a lot of big players in the game, the head of Google and everything like that. They are worried about the robots taking over the world. In the meantime, let them take over your business and make your business better.
Mic drop. That's where we finish, ladies and gentlemen. That's where we finish. Thank you, Chris.
Thanks.
So about 75% of our audience hasn't liked, followed, or subscribed to our podcast. It would mean the world to us, and it would help this podcast more than you know to expand our reach if you were to like, follow, or subscribe on any of the platforms that you're watching or listening on. Thanks again.